Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And that's why we're honored to have with us George Abbott, co-convener of Reimagining the Civic Commons. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here, Jeremy. Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. When you talk about good news for Memphis, we have a lot to talk about on that front, but really cool when you talk about a national collaboration tied around philanthropy, but equity as well. And how do you reimagine the civic commons, the public spaces? So give us some background on Reimagining the Civic Commons.
Yeah, so Reimagining the Civic Commons is a super exciting program. Basically begins with the idea that public spaces are the places where we all come together, where we build community. You know, they're a place that anyone can go to. Doesn't matter if you're living in the nicest neighborhood in town or you're living in one of our more challenged neighborhoods. You know, public spaces are open to everyone. So the idea is that if we reinvest in them in a strategic and targeted way, we can actually make places where people would interact with others who they wouldn't necessarily see in their daily lives. You know, people that may not work at the same place, may not shop at the same place, may not go to the same schools. And the more we're exposed to others, the more that we kind of are in community with others, the stronger our community becomes, because that's the way that we kind of develop empathy, the way that we care about other people. And so really, Reimagining Civic Commons says that public spaces are the mechanism by which we can build stronger communities.
There are some very well-known national philanthropies as a part of this, other cities as a part of this, so it's kind of a network. Talk about how Memphis got involved.
Yeah, so this whole program started way back in 2016, founded by the Knight Foundation and JPB and Kresge and Rockefeller Foundations. You know, these foundations kind of came together. They said, we're going to pool our money and test out this idea that public spaces can bring people together and build community. There was an application process. Memphis applied to be part of it, part of the cohort, and was selected. So now we are 2024, so we're 8 years on. We're 2025 actually, so we're 9 years on from that start. We've been through a couple of grant cycles. The community of cities has grown. So we now include Akron in Ohio, Camden, New Jersey, Cincinnati, Detroit, Lexington, Macon, Georgia, Memphis, obviously, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Philadelphia, and San Jose. So the Memphis team is part of this national network, and being able to convene with our peers in other cities to learn from the work that they've done, to steal ideas from them, honestly, is super helpful. Like one of my favorite things that we've done as part of Civic Commons, a few years ago, you may remember, we hosted kayaking events on the Mississippi River Harbor. So it was free kayaks. You know, we put a DJ on a boat, and you could come down and just paddle around under the stars. Sunset kayak, it was called. And that was an idea we directly stole from Philadelphia that did something similar. We gave it kind of a Memphis twist. You know, they didn't have a DJ on a boat, like giving shout outs to people and doing dance contests on the water. But that was super fun. You know, we had people who'd never been on the water before, just have a chance to get out and experience something new, meet other people. It was awesome.
Well, hey, they'll appreciate the shout out, but it just goes to show that when you talk about the greater good, I mean, that's the whole idea, is don't reinvent the wheel. Look at best practices and what other cities are doing, and then take it and make it your own. Put your own spin on it. Put your Memphis spin on it, right? So I think that's exactly what you're talking about. But that way, everyone wins, especially when you're talking about the public. How does the public win? That's exactly what you're talking about with the greater good. And so talk about some of the things that you all are looking at. So when you look at, okay, the metrics and what shares the story, what stories are we sharing with other cities? Like, what are the things that we're looking at for Memphis that we're, kind of grading?
Yeah, so the really unique thing I think about Civic Commons is it comes with a level of rigor that isn't often found in these types of projects. So, the story I just told you about kayaks, great fluffy story. You could tell that to a funder and they'd be happy, and tell them about the guy who came from South Memphis who'd never been on a kayak before, and it's like, great, we're doing something good. But to really measure your success, you've got to apply a more stringent analysis. So Civic Commons kind of comes with this set of metrics that we measure, ranging from baseline attendance to then what the attendance is after you've made changes to the space, so you can see the change. Then we have and there's a combination of automated counters, which count people, and then surveyors who do more intensive questions. Have you ever been to this space before? Have you met somebody new? Where did you come from? How did you get here? So all of that kind of gets packaged together and analyzed in a metrics report, which aims to find out, what are the most effective interventions that we can make that do bring more people, that do bring a more diverse audience, and that folks respond to. And then we use that data to influence our work moving forward. And I think you can see that progression really nicely on the riverfront, where back in 2016, there was a pop-up experience called River Play. It's basketball courts painted on Riverside Drive. And there was skating, and there was big board games and things like that. But it was all temporary. And the idea there was like, let's see if people come, let's see who comes, let's see what they respond to, and then use that data to influence permanent changes. So after River Play came River Garden and Fourth Bluff Park, the place where we held those Grizzlies watch parties. And then learning from that influenced the design and the program in Tom Lee Park, which much larger park. So I think it's really important that you do actually have a set of metrics that you pay attention to and that you learn from, because then that helps you to produce a much better product when you make significant capital investments down the line.
And I love, too, the idea of testing it before you install the permanent fixtures. Let's see what's going to work. And I think just some of the other really cool stats, when you talk about the Fourth Bluff, 2/3 of the site visitors say they've met someone for the first time while visiting in the Fourth Bluff. In 2023, weekly yoga classes drew more than 5,000 diverse participants to the city's revitalized riverfront, and coming from 37 different zip codes across the region. And so I think, to your point, it's knowing, okay, what statistics do we want to measure? And then how do we build out the storylines through surveys and, get all this information that we can use to inform the decisions. And, then also to figure out, okay, what's next? What do we need? How do we activate these spaces?
Yeah.
So share maybe one or two other either aha moments or, surprises or things that put a smile on your face when you look at the success that has already been realized.
So just before I do that, I will say, yoga will be back this summer. Downtown Memphis Commission organizes the yoga class in River Garden. I think it will start, when it warms up a little bit around May. Keep an eye out for that, because if you like to do yoga, or even if you've never done yoga before, that is the best way to experience it. You've never really done yoga until you've been with like 500 strangers in a park in 80-degree weather. It's super fun. And every Tuesday night, I think, if they do it the same day. So there's one story which I really like to tell from Tom Lee. And it's a kid that I met down there, 6-year-old kid. And I went on a run and I borrowed a basketball and decided to just shoot some hoops by myself. And this kid came up and talked to me, and he was asking me all these questions. And he was like 6-year-olds. I was very interested in surprising things. He was like, "Oh, you come from England?" He was like, "Tell me something that's rude in England that's not rude in the U.S." And so I had a great discussion with this boy, and then I started to think, okay, this kid is kind of young to be out here on his own. Like, where are his parents? What is going on? So I spoke to some of the staff in the rangers who work down there, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's Jackson. His dad, he lives a few blocks away. His dad used to bring him down here. He loves being down here so much that his dad said, I'm going to give you my phone number. Jackson. I'm going to let him come down here. You keep an eye on him. And if you need anything, just call me and I'll come down and deal with it." And it got me to thinking about the bravery that this kid had to talk to everybody that was around at the age of like 6. And the way that experience will stand him in great stead for the rest of his life, because if he's willing to be out there on the basketball court, just making new friends with people, he doesn't know where they're from, he doesn't know, what they're like that is going to build his social skills so much that by the time he gets to, 17, 18, he's not going to be scared of anything. And it's like that kind of growth you can see, and also, honestly, it made my day great. To me, him made my day great. Too. But it's like experiences like that, you can see the power of what public spaces can do. Because I would never have met him in anywhere else. If it was in a restaurant, he would have been with his family. I wouldn't have seen him in school. So it's like those types of spontaneous interactions are beautiful. And they're the types of things which can happen in public spaces, but they can only happen if you develop the space that attracts people, where people feel safe and where they want to hang out, and that has some layer of programming that kind of, that brings those people there, whether it's just things like a basketball hoop or even an activity like the kayaking or the yoga. And so Civic Commons is really just the framework that allows those interactions to happen. And I've talked about the riverfront a lot because that's where I'm most familiar with, but I should also mention that, we have partners who participate in Overton Park, in the Heights, all across the city. Jamal Body with Bloom is a big part of this too, and they work in parks across the city, out in Audubon, University area. So there, this type of thing, and we all collaborate, we meet regularly and we share ideas, we share, occasionally we'll do the same event in multiple spaces and see how the demographics change as people attend. And then of course, City Parks Department has been a big part of this too. Should shout out Nick Walker. We only have short time left to do that, but he's been a great leader for the City Parks Department. So it's a great program. Really grateful to the foundations for supporting us, for bringing Memphis into the network, and for giving us the resources to make these things happen.
Yeah, one word that really stands out as you're talking about all that is intention, being very intentional with your efforts around reimagining common spaces and activating common spaces and putting them to the best use for the public. So carry that into what makes you excited for 2025. So talk about what's next.
Well, one great opportunity we have, something that I think isn't as well known as it ought to be, is the Memphis library system. I talked a lot about parks, but the Civic Commons also includes our indoor public spaces, places like community centers, like libraries. And if you have not visited the Cossett Library downtown, you really need to take some time out of your day and come visit the Cossett Library, because it is a beautifully redesigned space, and it's really a new model of a library. If you are interested in creating podcasts, there's a podcast studio. If you're a photographer, there's a photography studio. They have an entrepreneur in residence program where they'll have these artists, or they'll have these entrepreneurs who will kind of make themselves available to young people or older people. Age is irrelevant, people who want to learn from them. So, the COSIT was kind of the first iteration there, but we're seeing other libraries around the city, steal from them and begin to implement some of that in their programming too. But I will say, kind of looking ahead to 2025, I think what's exciting for me is just our continued renaissance from COVID, right? Which feels weird to say, like it was almost 5 years ago, but I think, it's taken us a long time to get back outside and for people to get back in public space. But I see it more and more. Like you can see people coming back and realizing we've got to get back outside. I read Jeff Corkins' column. His New Year's resolution was his challenge to Memphians was to do something, to get out of your house, and have a meal, visit a park, do something new. And so that is the spirit which I'm excited for. I think there's a lot to look forward to on the riverfront with the flyway being built. There are a lot of changes coming to Overton Park with new leadership there, and looking ahead to what the future of the old forest looks like, what the future of those buildings look like. And so there's a lot to be excited about. And my challenge, I would echo Jeff and say, participate. There are always fun things going on. Get on all the email lists you can find, and don't have an excuse that there's nothing to do, because there are super fun things happening. And I'll just mention one last thing, because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that 2025 is 100 years since Tom Lee's rescue of those people from the Mississippi River. And Memphis River Parks Partnership has planned a whole series of activities to commemorate that action, and really to explore what would Memphis look like if all of us were just 1% more like Tom Lee. If we had a little more of the courage and the empathy and the reaching out across divides that Tom Lee demonstrated. So 2025 is the year of Tom Lee. It's the year of reaching out, making new friends, and spending time outside. So that's exciting to me.
Absolutely. We'll wrap up with where we all can go to learn more, to participate, be involved with Reimagining the Civic Commons.
CivicCommons.us is the website for the National Collaborative. So you can find out about the work in Memphis, but you can also look at the work happening in other cities all around the country. Some of the partners who will be frequently communicating: Memphis River Parks Partnership, Overton Park Conservancy, the Heights CDC, Innovate Memphis, look up those organizations, Downtown Memphis Commission and City of Memphis, Memphis Public Libraries. All of those organizations have their own social media pages, their own websites. Get on their email newsletters and be part of it.
Well, George Abbott, co-convener of Reimagining the Civic Commons, thank you for all you and your amazing team do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most: the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.